When did you realize that teacher you loved was actually an ass?
When he'd shamelessly flirt with high school girls. This teacher was the girls' varsity basketball coach, and every year there were rumors about him having sex with a couple of them. I'm sure most of those rumors are exaggerated, but one girl admitted years later that she had sex with him on multiple occasions when she was 17/18. This was in the late 80s. The teacher was about 35 to 40 at the time and married.
When he got drunk and beat the beep out of his then-girlfriend for turning down his marriage proposal edit, forgot a detail. He locked her into her bedroom and ripped the phone out of the wall before leaving. Her brother found her the next day.
I started out thinking my art teacher was alright, then I drew something and he started laughing really hard and exclaimed to me really loudly so the whole class could hear, "This looks like something a 5-year-old drew."
I was recently talking to my little brother about a high school teacher we both had. My brother thought the teacher was an asshole, and the teacher did not like my brother, either. The teacher and I got on really well. I was trying to figure out why our experiences were so different and the answer was obvious. I was also an insufferable asshole. The teacher and I both bullied people to assert some kind of dominance. I was an awful teenager. He was a worse adult. ETA. Whoa, thank you for the silver.
When I asked for an academic reference after leaving school. For 8 years she was my head of year and history teacher for 4 of those. Called me a star pupil, we had in jokes, I gave her gifts at the end of each academic year. But suddenly 3 years after I left, she didn't know me well enough to write one. I was really disappointed and tbh a little heartbroken. I complained to some school friends who mostly weren't surprised and said they'd all found her two-faced and didn't like her back then. I was the only one who thought she was amazing and inspiring. Later in life I've had university lecturers happily give me references without batting an eyelid, 5 years after completing their modules.
When he popped up in the local paper for being a nonce. This guy was that teacher that everyone wanted as their teacher in primary school up to age 10 to 11. He was funny, he made jokes, he wrote his own assemblies and school plays. We all thought he was such a cool teacher, not like the other stuffy teachers. And I remember he always used to give special attention to kids in the class who were perhaps a bit poor or a bit slower academically, seat them in front of his desk and give them extra coaching and encouragement. And at the time everyone said how nice he was for doing that, but with hindsight he was picking them out and grooming them. Absolutely turns my stomach.
I had an app English teacher in junior high that I loved. I had a 98% in her class and truly enjoyed her teaching. In our school our English teacher would hand out the Student of the Month awards. My football coach had nominated me, however I didn't know until she brings it to me one day in class. When she handed it to me I was shocked and said something like, "Wow, Student of the Month, I've never received one of these before," and she said without hesitation, "I know you definitely don't deserve it." I paused for a second and said excuse me, thinking maybe I misunderstood her, and without blinking she said, "I don't think you deserve that." It was then and there I realized how much of an ass she was. I immediately replied with, "Well, I don't give a beep what you think," which of course swiftly landed me in the office. Despite me advising the principal what she had said, I was hit with the classic, "We're not talking about her." It still to this day blows my mind that she was able to get away with that. Sorry about grammar, I am at work and had to type this out quick.
My English teacher during my finals. He was always the cool teacher, like, watches with us funny videos of screaming goats during the break, cool. Back then my English was awful, I struggled with holding a conversation but I really tried. So one day we had to write this essay where we had to compare the relationships in The Great Gatsby with relationships in any other novel we were allowed to choose. I compared it to the triangle between Harry's parents and Snape. I gave it to him to read and he said it's pretty well and he would like to give me a mark on it. He even underlined the language mistakes I made so he wouldn't have to subtract points for bad grammar. I was excited because I desperately needed a good mark and was proud of my work. I corrected the whole thing, he even approved it and took it with him. The next week I got it back with an 4+1 as the best, 6 as the worst. The plus means it was close to an 3, claiming that the content of the essay was awful. The same content that he applauded earlier. When I had my final English exam he was one of the supervisor, he came to me and whispered that he would be surprised if I would be good enough for an 5. I passed with a 3 and now I'm somewhat fluent in English. Beat that asshole.
When I saw his mugshot show up on local news along with statutory rape and 16-year-old girl. Doesn't help that I was one of the only 2 girls in his class. Edit, I should probably clarify that he had multiple classes. When I said I was one of the only 2 girls, I just meant the particular class one took with him.
For me it was the other way around. Teachers that I hated were actually awesome. And I hated them, because I was just lazy and they wanted me to be better at it. For example, I never liked biology. In our school we had a range of 12 in terms of your mark, where 0 means you did nothing and you didn't even try, and 12 you did everything perfect. And on biology exams I always got 3 to 4. I just wasn't interested in it. But teacher believed that I'm not stupid, but just not interested, and later I found out that he was upset that he couldn't make it interesting for me. Anyway, there was one topic that actually was interesting for me. And on exam for this topic I got 11/12. And teacher wasn't even surprised. He just said, I wish it was always like that with you. He was middle school teacher, so in high school he wasn't our biology teacher. But still, if school had any internal trips like hiking, he was there. And in one of these trips I actually got to know him closer, and understood how awesome he is, and how he loves his subject.
Well, there was a teacher I liked because he was very animated and kept the attention of the class, but one day he said something slightly sexual to me, and I was caught off guard. He didn't come back the next year. I don't know exactly what happened there.
At the start, he was a bit of a ledge. A down-to-earth woodworking teacher, taking us through craftsmanship one lopsided shelf at a time. Then, the next year, he changed. He got into the habit of dropping a pencil on the floor in front of his choice of 13-year-old girl and would ask them to pick it up for him. He'd get a good look up their skirts as they bent down. Then he went away for a few months and came back with bleach blonde hair and an eyebrow ring. Then he went away again a few weeks after that and didn't come back at all.
Not an ass, but still disappointing. My favorite HS teacher, with whom I took 3 classes in my final 2 years, didn't remember me at all when I visited the school again a few years later. Not even the slightest hint of having seen me before. I was in his classroom when 9/11 happened.
I basically didn't have history class in 10th grade because the teacher was so lazy and apathetic. The students loved that we had free days every other day, and most of the class, when it wasn't a free day, was him putting a random movie on while he sat on his computer.
When he got caught grooming young girls. Turns out he isn't Mr. Perfect, he is a narcissist that preys on people by convincing them that he's perfect.
When he made 80% of our grade about coming in and recording our choir concert, and I sent him 3 emails saying I couldn't go in, and I got a 0 on it because he never responded to any of them.
I had a MMA coach at community college who taught me self-defense, and he was super chill. My self-esteem raised so high after those terms, and I was actually enjoying working out for the first time in my life. He didn't teach how to defend yourself from someone who you thought you could trust but offered you illicit substances and touched you inappropriately while you're incapacitated, which he apparently did to one of his underage students and is now in jail for.
When he raped me.
I had a teacher in grade 5 that I thought was really cool. I met him again in high school. He kept getting transferred from one school to another because if he got angry at a student he would hurt them. I've seen him pick up a student and desk and throw them. Rumor has it that in the previous school he broke a student's collarbone.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.